class, this is our last note for the diversity unit. And so now we're going to look at the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom composed of roughly 36 phylum with a huge diverse range of species. We are going to look at the 9 phyla that kind of contain most of the species found in the animal kingdom. So we're going to kind of look a little bit about each of the different phylums. You have your Porifera, your Cnidaria, Platyhelminthes, nematodes, mollusks, your annelids, your arthropods, your ectodermata, and then your chordata. And if you actually look at this kind of cladogram or phylogenetic tree, it tells you kind of where different characteristics we talked about in the last note somewhat pop up. You can see you have your radial symmetry will pop up for your Cnidaria, your no body cavity, so your acoelomates will pop up under your Platyhelminthes. Your coelomates are going to pop up for the last 4. You're going to see some segmentations, and then segmentation come back again. You're going to see your bilateral symmetry. So some of those characteristics are going to come back again, and that's why you get your different phylums. So we're going to start with the kind of the first phylum, which is going to be your Porifera. These are your sea sponges. So they are usually found in your marine ecosystems. They are going to be your asymmetrical. So remember, we talked about the ideas that no matter which direction we try to cut them, no two halves will be the same. They are going to be able to reproduce asexually or sexually. And then they really don't have a normal circulatory or digestive system based on how they're more like filter feeders. And so water kind of moves in through the pores. They have the flagella that kind of helps pass particles of food through, and from there they're able to get their nutrients. Because your Porifera are technically sessile as an adult, which means they're stationary, it means that they are able to move as their juvenile stage. So that's where they actually get their movement from. The next phylum is going to be the Cnidaria. These are your jellyfishes, your anemones, your hydras, things like that. If you get a chance, if you to look up a hydra, you can kind of watch how they eat. They have the tentacles and they bring their food in. It's kind of a neat little video. They are again going to be marine, which means your salt water. They are going to have only 2 body germ layers or body layers. So the ectoderm and the endoderm, they're missing the mesoderm. So that's kind of the middle layer they're missing. They have an incomplete digestive system. So if you look here, you have one opening that food goes in and waste goes out. They can asexually clone themselves or sexually using male and female gametes. They are ones that show that radial symmetry and that you can cut those, and no matter which direction you go, the both halves will look similar. When you think of your Cnidaria, you think of your anemones, you think of like Finding Nemo, and Nemo kind of lives in them. And when you look at the tentacles of either the jellyfish or the anemone, we know that they have that stinging properties. And so they have the stinging kind of tentacles that allow for them to paralyze their prey, and that's how they're able to get their foods from it. The next one is your Platyhelminthes. This is where you're looking at what's called like your flatworm, your tapeworms. So some of these are going to be your parasitic kind of organisms that fall under the animal kingdom. They are usually found in fresh water or living in a host, such as like your tapeworm lives in a host. They are going to have that flat body cavity, which means they're the acoelomates. They don't have a proper cavity. They are going to have your bilateral symmetry, which means you can kind of split it in one specific plane and then both halves will be equal. They are what's known as hermaphrodites. So that means that they still will do cross-fertilization, but both organisms will be fertilized at the same time because they have both male and female sex organs. The nematodes. This is what's known as your roundworms. Ascaris, which is like your roundworm, that's one of the ringworm is one of the samples for this nematode phylum. They are going to be freshwater or saltwater. They are going to have unsegmented body, where if you're annelid, you're going to have that segmented body. So then that's going to be like your earthworm. They do now have that complete digestive tract. So when you're looking at it, you can see it has your 2 openings. So food and waste go in and out separate openings. They again show your bilateral symmetry, and they are going to show sexual reproductions. These ones are not hermaphrodites like the platyhelminthes. The next phylum is going to be the mollusks. So this is where you're looking at your clams, your mussels, your scallops, your octopuses, squids, snails, slugs, things like that. They can be found in a variety of habitats, so your marine, your freshwater, and on land. They are going to have this strong muscular foot, and inside that foot, that's how a lot of them are able to move. And so when you're looking at your clams and you actually are kind of eating, say, your mussels and stuff, that's that muscular foot that's kind of on the outside of it. Inside that muscular foot, you'll also see their internal organs as well. They are going to reproduce sexually, male and female gametes. They're going to have that body cavity, and then they're going to have your bilateral symmetry. The next phylum is going to be the annelids. This is where you're getting into your earthworms and your leeches. This is where you're starting to see segmentation kick in. So now you're getting the segmented symmetry. You're also going to get that bilateral symmetry. They are going to reproduce, but most of them are going to be your hermaphrodites. So again, you have your male and female reproductive organs in the same organism. So they're going to be similar to the roundworms, but a little bit different in that they are going to now be your segmented. The next phylum is going to be the arthropods. This is going to make up one of the largest phylum in the entire animal kingdom. This is where you are getting all of the insects, your crustaceans, things like that. It's a very large phylum. So this is where you see all of your species in. They are going to have a segmented body. They are going to have your paired appendages. So for a left leg, they will have a right leg. So you're starting to see your paired appendages. You will see some species are going to have a head, an abdomen, and a thorax region. They're going to have that exoskeleton. So that's where their skeleton's on the outside of their body. Chitin, this is where we talked about the fungus. This was in the cell wall of the fungi, is now what's used in the exoskeleton here. They are going to have bilateral symmetry. They're going to have your gametes. You are going to have your your complete digestive system, but some of these will have incomplete or complete. Some of them will have different structures of blood. Some of them will use a different way to bring in oxygen, so their circulatory systems varies. So when you're looking at the kind of different phylums of arthropods, you can see it varies. You are going to have your centipedes, your millipedes, your grasshoppers. So now you're getting into all your insects. Then you get into your scorpions, your ticks like that. Then you're getting into your crabs, your crayfishes. And so there's huge variety in this kingdom. The second last kingdom we're going to talk about is the ectodermata. This is where we bring back that radial symmetry, because you're able to look at your starfish, your sand dollar, and your sea urchins and cut them in pretty much almost any plane and still have two identical halves. They are going to still have your complete digestive system. They're going to reproduce either asexually or sexually. This species is very well studied for the fact that they can do regeneration. So a starfish loses a limb, they are able to regenerate it in ideal conditions. And so that's a big difference there. When you're looking at the ectodermatas, they are usually found in saltwater conditions, kind of living along the floor. The body of them is going to have those spiny outsides that usually does support as well as protect them from other species. The last one, this is going to be the phylum that we're in, the chordatas. So when you're looking at the chordatas, that's going to be using your vertebrae or your spine. So this is where you're getting that dorsal nerve cord. Most chordata are going to have an endoskeleton made up of your bones. Some will have cartilage, and you'll kind of see that through. And so when we talk about chordata, it's just not humans. You're looking at a whole bunch of other species. So you're looking at your kind of lamprey, your jawless fish. Then you get into your cartilaginous fish. You're going to get into a lot of your marine species. Then you get into your amphibians, your reptiles, and then eventually your mammals. And so this is looking at your phylums for your chordata. And then these are going to separate into your classes. And if you kind of look at your phylogenetic tree, you can see that there are different characteristics that come up. So you have your vertebrae, then you have your jaws, your bony endoskeleton, lungs are going to develop, then you're going to have the limbs, and this is where you're going to get what's called a tetrapod, and it means that you can walk on multiple legs. So usually you're seeing the 4 legs, and then eventually when you get to the humans, we are the upright on 2, which shows your bipedalism, and we'll talk about that more in evolution. And then you get into your amniotic sac, and then the mammary glands in your mammals. And so from there, you can kind of see the different classes that make up the phylum Chordata that us. There's lots of information that you can look up about each of the phylum in each of the 5 kingdoms. We just kind of did a brief overview of all of the 5 kingdoms just for you to kind of get a little taste about each one. Okay, and so that's the end of the diversity unit. Okay, thanks class.